show that we've got a viable alternative way, right? And if it doesn't work, everybody will know. And when it comes to transformation, it is completely out of our control. Because ultimately, it depends on a work of the Spirit that we can't make happen. It's only as that group of people are open to the Spirit in the same way we are that they can participate in that degree of transformation. It's completely beyond our control. Right? Okay? Now, what I would like us to suggest is that if we are going to be truly free enough to be able to adopt whatever strategy is going to meet people's basic needs, we need to deal with the basic issues of control. In Galatians 5, it says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, etc. But in among all those fruit, there's a little descriptor about control. Can anybody remember what it is? What kind of control? Self-control. It's not about anybody controlling us. It's not about us controlling anybody else. Is that right? But it's when the Spirit comes upon us, the Spirit wants to induce processes and structures that engender self-control. It's about us controlling ourselves, but it's also about us helping other people to control themselves. Right. And that requires an even greater conversion than being committed to working with the last and making the last first. Because what it means when we work with those people, it's about not manipulating and exploiting them in order to develop a program that will be seen to succeed, but it's about risking our reputation to be with people in the process, even when we don't control it, praying and hoping that they will take it on, they will be responsible, they will make it happen, because they are open to the Spirit. Is that clear? All right. Now, I want to give you a chance in a moment to form small groups and have a discussion. And what I want you to look at is the issue of what is the challenge in this for you? What kind of changes does this kind of agenda raise for you? Okay? Is it about putting the last first? Is that the serious issue? Is it about dealing with issues of control? Is it about becoming more aware of the strategies that Jesus uses to work with meeting people's basic needs? What is the challenge in this for you? But before we have that discussion, are there any questions you'd like to ask me? Any comments you'd like to make? Yes, Graham.
Dave, could you comment on the least of my brothers?
Yes, in one part it says the least of my brothers, in the other part it doesn't. So I think it's significant that in one place it is and the other place it isn't. Now some people interpret the whole of it to be the least of my brothers, therefore it's talking about people who share the same faith as Jesus. That's how they frame it. But
some say the Jews particularly.
And yes, okay, and the Jews in particular. I think the whole point of it is exactly the opposite. Because Jesus tells this story to people who are shocked by the ending. In other words, they are shocked by the connection between Jesus and the groups that they're relating to, and that there's any connection between the way they relate to those people and to Jesus. Now, if it was people who shared the same faith as Jesus, they would be immediately aware that the way that they treat those people has an impact on Jesus. If it was about people of the same culture, tradition or religion, it's not such a shock. Right? It's obvious. Everybody knows those connections. No surprise. But the big surprise in this, for both the sheep and the goats, is that there's any connection between these kind of people that they're relating to and Jesus. There's no immediate obvious connection. And that would seem to suggest to me that the whole emphasis on this parable is that it's not talking about people who share the same faith as Jesus. It's not about the same culture, tradition or religion. It's about Hey, surprise, surprise, these people that you think have no connection to me really matter to me, right? And the thing in it, I think that's interesting, is that the sheep are as surprised by that as the goats. They say, when did we ever know that? When did we ever? They didn't get it. We are fortunate that we have the text. We needn't be surprised. The good news is we can repent now rather than later. Isn't that right? Yeah, okay. Any other questions before we have the discussion?
You talked about number 5, transformation, and you talked about it relies on the Spirit to convict all people.
Yes.
Are you therefore dealing with other Christians rather than, say, later in become Christians?
No, I'm not. I don't think Christians have a monopoly on the Spirit. I think the Spirit of God works in the world, seeking to draw people to Him. When Jesus came along and preached about the coming of the Spirit, to preach good news to the poor, everybody assumed this was meaning the people of God, right? So everybody clapped and cheered. Oh, Jesus, you're terrific. You know, the Spirit of the Lord is upon you to preach good news to the poor. We're poor. That's for us. Terrific. But Jesus goes on to say, and by the way, this includes people like Naaman the leper, who was a Syrian, who God healed. And they go, what, you mean we don't have a monopoly on the Spirit? You're going to work with people who don't share the same religious traditions and culture and religion as us? Are you serious? And Jesus said, yes, I'm serious. And they said, kill him. Isn't that right? Wasn't that a response? Quickly, they turned from clapping Jesus and to killing him. Because every religious group in the world likes to think they've got a monopoly on the Spirit, but none of us do. Our salvation depends on a God who is free to intervene and work with people. What does it say in Chronicles? The eyes of the Lord rove to and fro throughout the earth, seeking to show himself mighty on behalf of those whose hearts are open towards him. You know, and I believe God is prepared to work with anybody and everybody. Now that raises a whole lot of theological issues, but we don't have time to debate those now. Okay, let's break into small groups and just with 3 or 4 people, and for the next 5 or 10 minutes have a discussion about what is the challenge in this for you. Is there anybody that feels at this stage that they need to make a public comment or raise an issue or ask a question?
I'd like to raise an issue. I've been very vocal in my small group here this morning, and I'll give them an opportunity to be vocal back. But I manage an organisation with 30 people who are generally long-term unemployed. They come to us subsidised by government work and so on for a period of between 6 and 12 months. I'm white, middle class, educated. They're generally unemployable, illiterate, Pacific Islander Maori. We're very passionate. We're a non-Christian organisation, but we bring a strong Christian ethos to it. One of our major problems is that we, in our efforts to really model Christ and assist them and educate them and employ them and set them back on the road again, is that we often end up being taken for a ride, in the sense that we get used.
Yes, I'm familiar with that experience.
And I find that difficult because we don't like to relinquish control, particularly as white middle class people. And there's
Sure.
always that barrier there. They don't feel comfortable necessarily until they really get to know us about sharing their lives.
It's where it does become mutual and vulnerable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
but that's where you get hurt.
Yeah.
That's right. So we're following somebody who got killed. You know, I mean, it may come as a surprise, but we're not looking at pain-free options here. We're looking at the most. We're not. We're looking at the options that create the greatest possibility of meeting people's basic needs. Unfortunately, these are increasingly painful. I mean, the pain of this option, let me just be clear about it, that not even Jesus was able to achieve that one in his lifetime. I mean, the pain of that one is that is what you're working for. That's what you're praying for. May your kingdom come. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's what you're praying for. You're praying for transformation, right? This is, you yearn for, you long for, you sweat for, you work for that transformation. But ultimately, that kind of transformation is only possible through people being open to the Spirit and opening their lives to the Spirit. You cannot make it happen. If we use techniques to displace the Spirit and replace the Spirit to make it work, damn it, in the end, it's counterproductive. See, even when Jesus breathed on his disciples and said, receive the Spirit, they didn't get it. He actually had to say, after everything I've done with you, you need to wait. Didn't he say this? Wait until you are empowered from on high. It's only when the Spirit came that they were able to take this and make this their own. Isn't that right? And that's the difficulty. My view is this, that all our work in community development is not intervention but intercession. If we see it as intervention, we believe that we have the techniques to make it happen. But if we see it as intercession, embodied prayer, then we realise everything that we say and do is an expression of what we long for, what we yearn for, but we cannot make happen. That only God can bring about in people's lives. Somewhere, somehow, sometime. Is that clear? It's essentially a work of the Spirit from beginning to end. And that's what we need to come to terms with.